And we welcome to the show my old friend. There she is. Far from Eden. Used to be feminism on trial. Is that
Yeah, that's
long
right.
time ago? And
40
we
years, 40 years ago.
4 years. Was it that long ago?
Yeah, that's when I
Am I
first
getting?
started.
Am I getting that old already? Oh my
No.
God. No, I think I am. Yeah. So you are here. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to
And
see you.
we're going to
You did
talk
the
about
review.
some stuff. So we're talking about the election. What do you think? What's going to happen?
Well, what I think is going to happen is Trump is going to, let's see, what does win even mean? But he's going to win in kind of what would look like a landslide, right?
Okay.
But then it's going to be, wait, Pennsylvania hasn't finished counting. Arizona hasn't finished counting. Michigan hasn't finished counting. No. And then also, once they announce tentatively that Trump has won in the days following the election, I think the left is going to do a lot of uprising type of thing, kind of like what we saw in the Summer of Love with the mostly peaceful protests. I think that's going to kind of happen again. And I have heard recently, like on mainstream news, I wish I could remember the pundit advisor, whatever the dude's name was, who said that if Trump wins, they will not certify the election because he's illegitimate, because he's a felon or he did insurrection or whatever their, reason is. They're like, well, we're not going to certify him because he shouldn't have been able to run. And I'm like, awesome.
No, don't you find that interesting that I hear an echo? Do you hear that?
No,
that's good. Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
Don't you find it interesting, though, that Donald Trump said, hey, I kind of have a little bit of thing about this election, 2020. And the Democrats are coming back and doing the same GD effing thing.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it only matters, I guess, when it's against them. Isn't that seems reasonable to me in my head?
Look, communists especially accuse you of doing what they're doing. And it's almost like they're doing it. They've been accusing Trump of doing the thing that they plan to do this January. That's what I see. I don't know.
I mean, they're not even hiding it. They're coming out. Was it Kinzinger or one of these assholes comes out, oh, we're just not going to certify that election. And I mean, let's be honest, Madam Vice President Harris has to do the certification, right? She's got to do the thing, right?
Right. Oh,
she's
my
the president
God,
of the Senate. Yeah.
I feel so dumb. Right. So it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because they're going to say, we can't let this guy they use the word literally, who's literally, the Austrian guy with the little funny mustache. He's literally that guy.
So you think you're going to vote for Trump, or what do you think, Aaron? You going to vote for Trump?
Who am I going to vote for?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Normally, I'm like, I think elections are all rigged and they just select who they're going to select. FDR said, leaders are not elected, they're selected. And I thought that for a very long time, particularly, I know FDR was before JFK, but particularly since JFK. But there's something different about this one, because when that bullet went by Trump, it shouldn't have missed. It was by the grace of God. It was a miracle. He turned his head right at that second. And so the fact that they wanted to take him out tells me he's not working for them, the overlords.
Yeah, the swamp.
Because I tend to think that they pull all the strings on both sides, Republicans, Democrats. That's why whenever, they disagree here or there, but anytime there's a war, we all agree. Or anytime anything, we all agree, But Trump there's something different. And when that bullet went by him, and then there was a second, guy in the bushes of the golf course, I was like, I think somehow he got through the guards that the overlords put to only let their people in. And so it has to be Trump. I think this is a completely different election. I've been following elections since I was a little kid. I'm like a political nerd, and there's something very different. There's something very, very different about this election, particularly.
So
I
far
think
from
they thought
even.
in 20. Sorry, go on.
No, please talk. People
think
hear
they
me
thought
talk
in
all the
20.
time. We want to hear you talk.
I think they thought in 2016 that, oh, okay, well, that's all right. We'll sort of make him what we want. And I think this is totally me speculating. I think that the populism that has grown since 2016, and especially because he does the big rallies and he interacts with the people, I think that that might have changed the man's heart a bit. I think that it changed his heart, and he started to say, no, I work for these people for sure. And I see the evils, and I'm going to work for the people. Because I think I definitely see a shift in him over these last, what is it, 8 years since 2016. He's not that same guy that kind of came in 2016. There's more heart and soul, I think, to him now. And I mean, nobody knows a person's heart, but there's something different, something very different about him.
I would
Now.
agree. The
Yeah.
first election I voted for, or voted in rather, in 1984 for Ronald Reagan, right?
Yeah.
And you're a little younger than me, so it was probably Bush one or something.
I was 96. Was it 96?
Okay, it was Dole
Yeah.
or Clinton, probably.
It was Clinton and Dole, and dummy me, I voted Democrat like all the way through Obama and Obama. Like I voted for Obama twice. Like this is whenever I want to say how dumb and blind I used to be, I'm like, well, I voted for Obama twice. That tells you everything you need to know. Because I was a typical woman, typical white, semi-affluent woman thinking, oh, those poor people, and I have a family of immigrants. These immigrants are just like my family. They just want to work hard and come to America and have the American dream, and I thought all these silly things because I believed CNN and news channels, and I never thought about when he's like, yes, we can. I never thought, yes, we can. What, Obama? I was like, yes, we can. Oh my gosh. So
no more. What made you change your mind though? Because I mean, you're obviously a female. I mean, we think your pronouns are probably she, they, or whatever the hell.
Definitely a female.
You're definitely a chick.
Let's see what came first. Honestly, it was around 2016, and I started noticing. I don't know what it was specifically, but I just started paying attention on a different level. I started thinking rather than feeling, because I started to notice that I'm just being led by however I feel, but there's no facts here. And it came at the same time that I was learning about the plight of men. So I think that's definitely what shifted the way I looked at things, because I was starting to look at life, trying to look at life through men's eyes. And I think I must have started looking at politics through men's eyes. And that's when I was like, oh, use a brain. Oh, brains are good.
Yeah,
I think that had to be what it was. Is like you start trying to think, you start trying to think how a man would think or how a man would see things based on family members and friends that I was listening to. And yeah, I kind of learned how to bypass my woman brain.
And you said, okay, this is kind of something wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
well,
was there a particular issue you think, or was
the
it
issue? The issue is Hillary Clinton. The issue was, oh, yeah, she's a real biscuit. Or witch. We could say witch. I was like, how did I ever, because I voted for her in the primary in 2008 against Obama. I actually voted for Hillary in that one. And then when I saw her campaigning against Trump, I was just like, you're nasty. You're just witchy. And you're abrasive. And I was like, how did I never see that before? And I think borrowing men's brains helped. I think it had to be. I don't think I would have been able to see it if I hadn't been waking up to red pill stuff and how men were, getting just absolutely put through the ringer in family court and falsely accused and all of these things. Yeah, I think that once you start, taking the blindfold off, you're going to see more than just the one thing. You're going to see a whole lot more. That's just what it seems like. I don't know how people can wake up to like one thing and then not see, or at least not begin to see the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The lies. Like when you go, okay, well, if COVID woke you up and you're like, wow, we were really lied to. Are you really going to say, well, that was when the government started lying to us? No. I mean, you got to go back and then you got to go, oh my. And then you go, maybe all governments lie. Maybe, you know what I mean? And it just kind of keeps, I don't know. You just kind of keep, as soon as you think you're awake, you're like, nope, there's more. Nope, there's more.
Yep. I mean, it's probably, the government has lied to us since time zero, really.
Absolutely. That's what they do. That's what they do.
And that's because what they're good at.
They want power. Yeah. They want to maintain their power. And they grow over time. History just shows it. And also, once you're going through all this waking up, you realize, wow, they just lied to us all through school. They lied and they omitted. Like, they don't teach you anything about communism in school. You learn about, the Austrian man with the funny mustache, but you don't learn about Stalin. You don't learn about Mao. You learn about Stalin, like he was one of the allies. Yeah, you don't learn about Pol Pot. You learn Stalin was one of the Allied powers. Like, good Lord, we fought on the side of the communists.
Yep, we did in World War II.
World War II.
And I mean, a lot of people they're either incapable or they don't want to see that Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong killed 200 million people.
Yes.
200 million people. Stalin starved to death 6 or 8 or 10 million Ukrainians.
Yes.
Nobody wants to fucking hear that. Pol Pot destroyed 1/4 of the population of Cambodia. It's like, that's not the mustache guy, the Hitler.
Right.
Yeah, he did really bad things, but what about these other guys?
They don't want to tell us that. This is what I think. They didn't want to tell us about the Bolshevik Revolution in 1817, around that time. They don't want to tell us about that. They don't want to talk to us about, what ensued, because they're doing it here. They basically sparked a civil war in Russia and had the have-nots rise up against the haves, which were like the farmers, right? And they had them fight each other to weaken each other. And then it was like, okay, we're going to take care of everything. We're going to be in charge of all the food and everything. That way everybody will be equal and everybody will be taken care of. Oh, yay, thank you, government. And then that's when the starvation happens. And that's when the atrocities happen. And that we didn't learn that it sparked not because there were, a million Bolsheviks that invaded Russia and took over. No. They had us rise up against each other by telling the poorest people that the people who had more than them because they took it.
Did you know the United States was actually involved in the Russian Revolution?
I do not know that part, but I'm happy to learn.
United States sent troops over to Russia. It's crazy. It's crazy talk. And
Of
I'm not
course,
sure which side they were on, but probably the wrong side. I mean, who knows, right? There were the
right?
reds
Well,
and
the
the
side of
whites.
democracy.
Yeah,
The
democracy,
side
my
of
ass.
democracy, right? The side where the people have a voice. Not the czar.
Well, I mean, that's
I
the
mean,
whole idea. Like Soviet is the people, right? Whatever, right? The people
if you
talking.
notice, like, yeah, all in the people's, what is it in China? The People's Democratic Republic of China or something like that.
Some
Something like that.
bullshit. Yeah, yeah.
It's always democratic democracy because that's the lie. The lie is it's about the people. No, it isn't.
We're gonna take care of you. Don't worry about it. Everything will
Right.
be fine.
It'll be
I think
better.
the
It'll be fair.
I think North Korea is the People's Republic of Korea or some shit. It's
Yeah,
all
something like
nonsense.
that. It's
Yeah.
people. I know. I used to think that when I was little, I'd look at the names of the countries and I was like, why are the communist ones have words like democratic and so I feel like, but we're a democracy. And well, because it's all headed that way. They've just had to slow walk America towards it, in my opinion. And I tensions are very, very high in this country right now. They're very high. And there are a lot of people who think that the reason they are poor is because someone else took it from them or, has some kind of privilege. And
I mean, do you feel privileged? I mean, you as a white woman, you as a woman are somewhat privileged because, whatever,
absolutely.
in some
Yeah,
areas.
no, I'm absolutely, there's absolutely white woman privilege, but it's not the way they think. It's that way. White woman privilege because white men have always been so good, I would say too good to us over the centuries of Christendom. And when I say too good, I think it's because they spoiled us, much like you would spoil a child. If you let the children just have as much candy as they want or stay up as late as they want or whatever, that's going to be bad for the kids, but that's what the kids want. So the women, some of them were like, well, we want to do this and we want to do that and we want to vote and all this stuff. And the men of Christendom were like, okay, like being good to us. But it actually, just like you wouldn't want to feed your kid candy for dinner, it's not good for them. So they let those boundaries slide. But the privilege of, for example, if I go outside and I have a problem, or if my car breaks down, there is going to be a man that is going to be helpful to me, particularly a white man is going to be helpful to me.
Probably, yeah.
It's just because you guys are good-natured and generous, but with the way you've been treated, that's ending. And I don't blame you one bit, not one bit.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's, just white men. I just think men,
Yeah,
for
men in
me,
general,
black
yes.
guys
Men
or
in
Hispanic
general,
guys,
yes.
who gives a shit, right? Chinese, whatever.
I mean,
we
right,
love
but just
women,
in my
right?
experience, it's going to be mostly the white ones and the black ones are the ones you can definitely count on the most. I don't know. I don't know why, but that's just my experience in life. And I don't have a ton, I live under a rock. So, but yeah, and I also have, in this country especially, and I know in the West, I have legal privilege. If I, they're unfortunately, the law tends to believe women more. And if I were to commit a crime, my sentence is not going to be as bad as, what a man's sentence would be if he committed the same crime. And it's just this privilege. It's just female privilege. It exists and it's disgusting. And it's not good for us. It's not made us better. It's not made us happier. None of this freedom has made us any better at all. We're miserable. We're on antidepressants. So many women drinking, all kinds of wine when I was
Yeah,
a
wine
kid,
moms. Yeah,
right?
right.
Wine
Yeah.
mom, right? Do you remember, like, when you were a kid, or not even that long ago, you go into a grocery store, it wasn't like half of a liquor store. You know what I mean? You go to a grocery store now and it's like, here's the giant wine in your face. And this
Yep.
whole section is liquor and alcohol. I'm like, I do not remember that. This is relatively new. And I think my theory is that women are drinking way, way, way more than they ever used to. And it's to cope, because these lives of having careers and being divorced and just, being boss babes and all this and trying to be equal to men, which is a joke. You can't, they can't. You're going to fail every day as a woman if you're trying to be a man. We can't do it. We're not you.
Mm.
And it's not been good for us, for the government, or to let us think that we should be, on your same level or above you in any way. It's not been good for us. It's pride. And that's why I
Yeah.
renamed my channel to Far From Eden, because that's
Far from
exactly what
Eden.
Eve did in the garden.
Yep.
She
Yep.
wanted to be above Adam, and she wanted to be like God. Like, well, this sounds familiar. Sounds like what's going on right now. And that's,
But I mean,
again, you got a woman trying to be president. It's ridiculous.
so I mean, it's fair to say, I think, that you, as a woman, obviously are for women's rights to work, to whatever, do have babies, stay at home, whatever, right? I mean, that's a fair thing. I mean, it's. But I mean, we're way beyond that. But go ahead, you think
I
that's fair,
have
right?
I don't believe in forcing women to be wives and mothers, because you can't force someone to be those things. Those things have to be chosen willingly by the woman. So it's not something you can force. So
But I mean,
absolutely,
you're obviously for the choice, though. I mean, if they want to do that, that's fine. That's
I'm
good.
for the
Yeah.
choice. If they want to do that, that's fine. I also think that if, in a fairy tale world, we lived in a land where women didn't want to do those things, it would be better. Because, okay, for example, the education system, right? Up until 1980, it was primarily run by men, primarily mostly male teachers, etc. Post 1980, it started to become more female, more female. Now we all know way more women run the educational system
Well,
in
I
the
mean, it's
United States.
dominated by women. Yeah, no question. Yeah.
Has it gotten better? No.
You tell me. I don't know. I
No.
haven't been in school since 1982, and you're not that far
People
behind me, right?
graduating seniors are reading on a third grade level.
Like, is that a nationwide statistic or just certain places?
Yes, it's bad. Generally speaking, because we have no child left behind, right? So you don't flunk kids
Mm.
anymore. Kids don't get held back.
Mm.
They don't get held back. Remember when you used to get your report card and be like, oh gosh,
Oh,
am I
yes.
moving to the next grade, right?
Yep.
That's not a thing anymore. You just go.
I
It's
mean, I went to Catholic school. I don't know about you, but I had the
I
nuns with the rulers and shit. Bang, bang.
I went to Catholic school through second grade, and then we moved, and I went to public school, which was shocking. But we didn't have
Oh
the
God,
rulers.
yes.
But I loved my Catholic school. I very much loved it. No one was allowed to say stupid. You were not allowed to call anyone stupid. Everyone was so nice and, mannerly and followed rules.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. This is my little, I feel like I'm partially autistic. I'm like, yes, let's have rules and let's all follow them.
Yeah.
But then I switched to public school in a totally different state on the West Coast. And I was like, these people are mean.
Mm, they're
And I had
fucking
started
nuts.
to,
Yeah.
I started to have to get like a tougher shell. Only in the last several years have I felt like, oh, the little girl with two braids in her hair from Connecticut can finally come back out. Because that's what it felt like. Like I had to put on this sort of tough exterior for all the nasty people in the world. And now I'm like, oh, that's not the way the world's supposed to be. I'm not going to pretend that that's what's right. I'm going to go ahead and be my normal self that, gets her feelings hurt sometimes and says, no, that's wrong. And I'm not going to apologize for it. So.
But I mean, what do you think of this fairness thing? Oh, everything should be fair. Everything should be fair.
Life isn't fair. Life isn't fair, but women want it to be fair. This is a great example of the way women think that's appropriate when you are raising children. If you're looking at your family and you have like 5 kids, right? And you're the mom and you're trying to make things fair amongst your 5 children at the appropriate times, right? If we're all having toast, then we're all going to have one piece of toast or whatever, right? Because that's fair. But this is when you have woman brain, which is appropriate, I think, designed by God, appropriate for family. And then that woman brain goes, and like looking at the world like, oh, it should all be fair. Like, lady, that's not life. Life is not fair. It's not fair. It never will be fair. And when you try to force it to be fair, you make it the most unfair. Some people are taller. Some people are smarter. Some people are more capable. All different things. We are so varied. And all they want is diversity, yet they want to make everybody the same. Makes no sense. It's either diverse and things are not fair, or we're all just the same. And they want us to be the same because we're just all slaves. We are all slaves in the government's eyes. And so, yeah, they want it to be fair, all right, because they want us to all have nothing.
Yeah. No,
You'll eat the bugs.
I don't disagree. I think it's the Democrats and the feminists in particular. When they look at this stuff, it's like, what we have now is not utopia. We're never going to get there. What are they talking about?
They've been trying to get to utopia for centuries, probably forever. There have been groups. And when feminism was first really getting kicked off in the 1800s and even late 1700s, communities would break off. And I actually learned this from, the book is over there, from Rachel Wilson's book about how communities would break off.
She's great.
I love her. I love her too. Communities would break off, and their goal was to, achieve utopia. And this was when America, well, not America, but when the colonies were first started and people came over here, and they would break off and they would have, these different communities. And the thing that would be the same over the next decades when these communities would break off is that they would try to erase the differences amongst the people. So the females would have the same rights as the males, and they would basically practice free love. So it was, polygamy, basically. And kind of like you would think of almost in recent history, like a hippie commune. And basically, it's just about erasing differences so everything's fair. And guess what? None of those utopian communities ever lasted. They always fail.
Yep.
Because it's just another version of communism. I think you cannot have communism without feminism.
I'm sorry. The kibbutz in Israel.
Yeah.
They tried that. It was a communist, everybody, blah, 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 common kitchens, all that shit.
Yep.
Didn't work. No. It never works.
No, it doesn't work. What works is God, man, woman, children. It worked. That works. That, as a building block of society, built the greatest civilization the world has ever known. And I'm just referring to the West, basically. And it was built on that building block of that nuclear Christian, sort of form of a family. It worked. And
For
every time
thousands
these
of years.
utopias, for thousands of years, and these little utopias and whatever, and we're all going to be equal and women are going to be like men, it doesn't work. When women step out of their role, things don't go as well. Look at single mother households. Look when the woman's like, well, I have to be the mom and the dad. Oh yeah, how'd the kids turn out? Not so good. Because you can't be. There's a reason we have a father, a mother, and children, and they have to be in their proper role. And when they're not, things go wonky.
I mean, there's a reason why the Jewish folks actually wrote the Bible. Mm-hmm. They said, hey, this will work, so let's do that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And suddenly in the last 20, 30 years, well, essentially, in the history of mankind, no, this is not right, this is wrong because you're this and that and you're homophobic and right? It's all bullshit.
Isms and opias. Yeah. All of a sudden, they were just figuring it all out now. This is how it should be. And everything falls apart. It's not better. This is not better. But they like to say, oh, no, this is better than it used to be. It was so bad 100 years ago. Oh, it used to be so bad. Women were so abused, this, that. And those are lies, flat out lies. And I feel like Winston in 1984, I'm like, that's not real history. I remember my grandparents. I remember my friends' grandparents. They experienced, and before we went live, you were talking about your grandparents. Like, we remember these people, and they may have had their issues, and probably I would say a lot because of feminism, but they weren't living out these dad would come home and beat the crap out of everybody.
I mean, who would do that? It's ridiculous.
Don't do that. That's not what y'all do.
No.
And if you did do that, how do you get brilliant children like Thomas Jefferson and just name great people throughout, throughout history? How do you get Michelangelo? How do you get any of these people? I'm going blank now, trying to think of all the great artists and thinkers and everything that have come out of the West.
Like Mozart, Shakespeare.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Shakespeare, Mozart, right. All of a sudden I was like,
and the guy who invented calculus, what was his name? Oh yeah, Leonardo da Vinci.
Right. He invented everything. That dude. Yeah, brilliant. So you don't get that if you come from this household where that's what dad does to mom. That's not true. You wouldn't have this flourishing society over, a couple thousand years. You wouldn't. Just wouldn't happen. They're lying to us. They're lying to us. And they've been lying to us because they have a vested interest in lying to us. And one of the things they love to do is tell women how hard done by they are, what victims they are. They scare them that if Donald Trump becomes president, then, they have to fear for their lives. Women's lives are in danger if President Trump if he becomes president again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But it doesn't matter because they just scare the women and make them think they're victims. And then the women seem to love it because then they're like, if I'm a victim, then I can do nothing wrong. Everyone knows the victim's never the villain. That's why they love to cry like victim in their marriages all the time.
I mean,
because then no matter what they say or do is forgiven because they're a victim.
I mean, I can't identify with this where men come home and beat their wives up and abuse their child. I don't get that. Where does that come from? I don't know.
An imagination.
I mean, my dad was he was kind of an alcoholic. He still is an alcoholic. But I mean, he never came home and beat us up or anything like that.
It's not. Look, and wouldn't you look? If men did that, okay, men are so much stronger than us We'd be walking around limping with bruises. Like, you would have seen it. You can't just, you know what I mean? Like, women think, like, Amber Heard was like, then he drug me over glass and this happened and that happened. It's like, lady, you would be in intensive care if all that happened, but you don't have a mark on you. And that's how they act. They're like, oh my God, this happened and he beat the crap out of me. And it's like, if that happened, you'd be in intensive care. Do you understand? You see so many movies.
Yep.
You see too many movies where there are all these fight scenes, right? And people just walk away with no mark on them. Like, that's not how it happens in real life. But women are so like distanced from what physical contact like that actually looks like, because we don't actually experience it the same way that men do. I know it's sort of, especially back in the day, was more of a rite of passage for men to kind of get in a tussle, even if it was with their brothers. Women don't get into that. That doesn't happen to us. So it's in our brains what we think happens. And like, oh, he punched me in my face. Girl, your jaw would be broken, okay? Come on. No. They have no idea what a man's hit would actually do.
Yeah.
No
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, men, I think in general, we don't know the strength that we have, because we're fucking, hairless monkeys at this point. And you know what a chimpanzee can do. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. They're very strong. And especially when you guys are mad, your adrenaline gets going and you really are strong. But women have no idea. And you can really see it now. One of my guilty pleasures is watching cop cam videos.
Oh,
and
I
now
love
that there are
those.
so many more,
Oh, yeah.
I know. Now that there are so many more female police officers, good gracious. They can't even subdue a female perp. They can't even get handcuffs on one.
Yep.
Let alone a male. We just don't have physical strength like that, like you guys do. It's not even comparable.
I mean, that's why there's the prohibition in general of men, hitting if a woman hits you. Right. And there's some guys are like, oh, hit her back. And no, you could literally kill a woman because we have that much more strength. Right. We're not going to do that. Right. Sorry.
Right. And what your punch would do to a man is so much different than what it would do to us bone density wise.
Oh, yeah.
So women shouldn't be hitting on men like that. And it's really puts men in a really tough position because they can't defend themselves really, because they're so afraid of actually, seriously hurting the woman, and they don't want to do that. You guys are not that way. They are mischaracterizing men when they say that, oh, women used to be trapped in these abusive marriages that they weren't allowed to get out of, and which is not true at all. Their divorce has never been prohibited for that reason, ever. Right. But that wasn't happening anyway. What they do is tell women, oh, it's abuse if he does this, and it's abuse if he does that. And women get it in their minds, and they make it bigger and bigger and bigger, like the boogeyman. And pretty soon, their story is like, oh my God, he beats me. And in reality, she's slapping on him and he's grabbing her arms, like trying to contain her. And like, oh, he grabbed me and pushed me. And it's like, you were slapping him. And it's just a figment. It's in their minds. The propaganda has been so effective on women. And then I fully believe we are the primary targets for propaganda because we are malleable to it. Much more so than you guys are. Much more so. Where did you go? Did we lose him? Oh no. Hamster?
No. I'm here. My mouse is kind of my battery's in my mouth. It's got to be the patriarchy or something. Oh my God.
Right. Oh, the evil patriarchy. The patriarchy is never evil. Patriarchy is benevolent in this country. And in the West, the patriarchy is benevolent. Yes.
You think women benefit from whatever so-called patriarchy? I still don't have my patriarchy card, but I could get one probably. Go down to the patriarchy lodge down the street.
That's a good idea. I've been toying the idea of creating some merch, just because people have been asking for it, and now I'm like, ooh, patriarchy cards. That sounds good. Proud member of the patriarchy. I
So
like that. No,
how
it's
do you
benevolent.
think? Yeah, of course it is. We love
Yeah.
women. We love
Yes.
women. We want to be with them and we want them around. We want to
I
have
know.
children with them. But where does this bullshit come from? This, oh, men are all evil and they're abusers and rapists and they're going to beat you when they come home from their martini lunch at the
Movies.
fucking office. Where does this come
Movies.
from?
Movies, music, those sorts of things. Do you remember the movie back in the 90s with Julia Roberts called Sleeping with the Enemy?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. Did a premiere at a
She
radio
didn't
station
arrange
for
the
that one. Yeah.
cans properly. She didn't arrange the cans properly or have the towels properly lined up, and he was just gonna beat the tar out of her.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
I remember it.
movies
Yeah.
like
And
that. Yeah,
she eventually killed him. Yeah, at the end.
she does. She eventually kills him, right? Yeah, in the end.
That was actually shot
and
in Iowa. I don't you if you didn't know that. That was
was it?
Burlington, Iowa. Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
up north of St. Louis.
I
But I mean,
saw it as a teenager, and it starts to shape your brain about how this is how malleable women are. You start to think, oh, men can be like that, even though you're like, I've never heard of any man in my life anywhere in real life being like that. That doesn't seem like how men are, you know. But you see so many sort of movies like that, and anytime there's a bad man that does something, the news media would make a big deal of it and make it seem like they blast
every
it so
man
much.
would do that.
Seems, yes. And women's brains, because I think we're wired to sense danger and recoil from it because we are more frail.
Right.
I think it's easy to scare us like that. And so when we're bombarded with the idea of these true crime things and Dateline and all those types of shows and stuff, unsolved mysteries, I think it got women thinking that men are predators, men are evil. And it's like, no, there are some bad people. But the thing is, you're not realizing is that who fights against those bad guys? The good guys. And who are the good guys? Men, right? And there's way more of them than there are of the bad guys. And by the way, those bad guys also hurt other men. And so what women are not realizing is that they are tearing down this patriarchy, and the patriarchy has been guarding them from these bad people, bad guys. And as they tear down the patriarchy, women are going to be way more victimized. And it's almost going to be more of a self-fulfilling prophecy where they said, this is what men do, and we can't even walk down the street. And it's like, well, guess what? There are cities in England where that's now true. Because you voted it in, ladies. You voted it in.
Well, I mean, what do you think about that, though, sweetheart? Women, a lot of times they're like, oh, I want to be able to walk down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning and be naked. What the fuck is that?
Well, guys can't. Men don't even walk down the street in bad neighborhoods at certain times of night. That's stupid to think it's because you're a woman. I was watching some TikTok videos as I was trying to get some for, content. And I ran across these women, particularly in Australia for some reason, talking about how, they can't walk down the street at certain times of the night in certain neighborhoods. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's
like
anybody.
Everybody else. I mean,
right.
Jesus.
And I'll tell you this, if it's so unsafe, right? If it's so unsafe, then why are all the women dressing half naked?
Oh, I mean, I don't care how they dress, but it's like,
no,
why would you go to this place? What are you doing?
If they really think that they are at such risk, then why would they even, I would, cover up, and I would be like, oh gosh, I don't want to attract attention because, there's all these predators around. But
yeah, the vast majority of men are not
a lie because they know it's a lie. It's a lie.
Of course they do. I mean, the vast majority of men are not out there trying to rape women.
No, of course they're not. Of course they're not. And yet the women still say, I'd rather see a bear in the woods than a man.
I mean, you heard the Chrissy Hind thing she said, and the feminists just went absolutely fucking crazy. Remember that?
What did she say?
She said, well, I was in high heels in a mini skirt with a, barely a bra on, and we were all taking drugs, and we went into a goddamn den with a bunch of fucking bikers. What did you think was going to happen?
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, she was assaulted, but she's like, hey, I went in there. I mean, duh, right?
Right. Well, for the longest time, and I remember the movie that started all this was, you can't blame the victim. Like, well, I think you can. I think if you make stupid decisions that help lead to whatever crime happened to you, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to, I was taught, hey, this was years ago, but like when you're in London, you don't just like wear a bunch of jewelry walking around. My dad used to travel a lot, and he said, I never wear an expensive watch.
Of course not. Yeah.
I never wear an expensive watch. I'm not going to advertise, hey, come mug me. And I remember him teaching us that when I was a kid. I remember him saying, like, you don't put forth this, like, hey, I've got money thing, because you're just welcoming, people who might want to mug you. And that's taking responsibility. So, in the whole don't blame the victim thing, I was like, so you're saying don't take responsibility and don't be accountable for anything. Okay. But yeah, that's the message to women.
Yeah. It's like the guy with the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Anything other than that, if they have to be accountable, or they're, something's questioned, well, you're just horrible. That's abusive to me.
Oh my God. Exactly.
So mad.
I mean, it's like the old saying, or kind of a trope, I guess. I don't know. But the guy walking down the street gets out of a Lambo, has got, millions of dollars hanging out of his pocket in a bad neighborhood.
Right.
It's like, okay, what did you expect was going to happen? What did you think? Well, I should
Why
be able to walk down that street and not be molested. You're right, but that's not utopia.
That's not
We're not in utopia, for God's sake.
Right. Well, it should be this way and it should be that way. Yeah, but this is life. That's not how it is. But that's what the women want, and that's what Kamala's running on. This is how it should be. It should be fair. It should be this. And it's like, yeah, well, you're selling something that doesn't exist in this life. But they're not the brightest people who are saying, yay, Kamala. They're not bright people, because they just are like, well, I think it's time for a woman. Because I want her to bring her experiences.
So is there anything about Madam Vice President that you find appealing? Okay. Next question.
No, not a darn thing. No.
What I mean, can we give a little empathy or sympathy for this person? Because she was thrust into this position, right? No. There were a lot better candidates, perhaps. Even Hillary Clinton would have been a better candidate, right? Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Here's where, if I have empathy for her, here's where it is. I feel sorry for her because I think that she came from a family, her father and his heritage, and her mother and her heritage. I think they had a child, and that child's life was never her own. There was always some form of a plan for her that she was never going to be fully in charge of. She was going to be pushed this direction towards this within this power structure of the inner workings of government, etc. And she was always going to be sort of owned by it. So if I have sympathy for her, it starts from when she was a child, and this life has never really been her own. I truly think that, her mother comes from a wealthy Indian communist family. Her father is Jamaican, but there's no African blood there. And don't take it from me. Watch Candace Owens' latest series. There's no African blood there at all. He's Irish and Jewish and a little bit of Indian. And he is a known Marxist. And there are Marxist ties going way back. And I think that there's, it's much like Obama having been born wherever he was born, but to, his mother, whose parents were involved with the CIA, and his stepfather, who was involved with the CIA. And I think he was a product and almost bred to be who he became. And I think that they're very similar in those ways. And so in that way, I don't think that it was ever her choice for any of it. And I don't think that started just, a few months ago.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I'm not sure that she's even aware of all of that. But I've been going deep down the rabbit hole into her past, her parents' pasts, and what they're all about, and just how there's a lot of these leaders like Obama, Kamala, Trudeau, Macron, that all seem to sort of have been bred for this. I have recently found out that Kamala did a lot of work for Soros when she was in was it the DA's office, or so she's connected. Her family's connected. She's connected. And it does go back to communism. And I fully believe when people are like, well, tell us your policies. Tell us your policies. How are you going to be different? And I think a lot of it's like, well, I'm not going to tell you my policies because we're just going to go hard left. And I'm not really going to tell you right now all the price controls I'm going to put on things, and that I'm going to make everything equal, and I'm going to take from the rich and give to the poor. Not the really, really, really rich. We're all going to keep our stuff because it's an oligarchy. But, all the like rich, millionaires and poor people, you're all going to have basically nothing. I think it's like, I'm not going to tell you my policies because this is a communist takeover. And I get it. That sounds super extreme.
No,
and maybe
it really doesn't. No.
I just, that's all I can see. But the communists take over in two different ways, it seems. Either they get kind of fake elected, where they can convince the people that, yeah, you voted for this, or revolution. And I think we're, because of Trump's popularity and the fact they're never going to be, they cannot fake that she got elected. There's no way they can fake it. Nobody will believe it. And so they'll say Trump got elected, but then they won't.
I mean, even the Democrats don't believe she's going to get elected at this point.
I know. It's kind of addictive to watch them scramble and panic and, beg and plead and all the rest of it. No, they don't believe it either right now. They're totally scrambling. I don't think she believes it. I think they know the plan. I think the plan is Trump will get elected. They'll say no, and there will be mostly peaceful protests.
So what do you think about this, I guess, outreach to men? And they're saying, okay, maybe we asked this question before. We're going to do it again. Why not? The black men, you're not voting for Kamala because you hate women, all that kind of bullshit. And it's like, I can speak for myself. I'm not a black guy. I'm a white guy. It's like, I'll vote for a woman. That's not the problem.
Right.
It's, I don't like her policies.
Right.
Her policies are horseshit.
A lot of men are like, look, I'd vote for Tulsi Gabbard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But they're like, it's not that she's a woman. Most men are like, look, it's not that she's a woman. It's that she's that.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And most men are like, at this point, I don't care. That's not what the thing is. The fact is that she's an idiot at best. At best, she's an idiot. At worst, she's an evil, communist figurehead person, but they're trying to shame men. They're trying to shame men into voting for her. Those ads, white dudes for Kamala, and the one where the guy's all, I eat carburetors for breakfast. Remember that one?
Oh
It was like, and all the men are like, who's working on carburetors nowadays? Like,
that's a fair point. Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah.
Women wrote that ad. This is what the men have said on the podcasts that I watch. Women probably wrote that ad so that men would say what they want men to say. Like, I'm not afraid of voting for a woman. Like, but it just goes to show you that women have no idea how men think, what men are thinking at all. And they think that this is a tactic. This is not a tactic that persuades men. This is a tactic that might persuade women, because women actually do respond to shame. Men, no. Actually, men are like, it's having the opposite effect. I truly believe that if a man is sort of on the fence and then he sees one of those ads, he's not like, you're right. He's more like, what are you trying to tell me? That makes me laugh every time.
So one last question there, sweetie. It's about an hour, so I don't want to take too much of your time up. Okay. Tell me about abortion. Tell me why that is such a big draw for women. Is it because they don't want to take responsibility for their own bodies, or what? What do you think about that? I mean, you're obviously a woman, so go ahead.
Yes. It has been effective to get women motivated to vote and protest, because it puts women, it's the only issue where women can think, they can make the argument that, hey, you're trying to take away our rights. You're trying to oppress us. They think it's something they can point to specifically where men are trying to control women's bodies. And it's just a complete fallacy, because it's not your body, it's a different body inside your body, right? And they don't want to hear about that, and then they'll change it, they'll move the goalpost 50,000 times. But that's why it's effective for women, because they have made it, the media and the lefties have made it so it's like, this is an attack on you. If you value women, you'll stand up against this. Even if it's not for you, what about your sister or your neighbor or your daughter or your this or your that? I actually saw today, I can't remember who was standing up, stumping for Kamala, saying, hey, it's, I think it's a blonde lady with the short hair from MSNBC. And she was like, women's lives are in danger if you vote for Trump. Women have already died because of his policies. And
Mika Brzezinski. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's her. Yes. Yep. She was saying that. And she was saying, and if you're a man, what about your nieces? What about your sisters? What about this? And I was like, so again, trying to get to the simps and be like, hey, if you love women, you have to vote for Kamala, because Trump hurts women. Do you want to hurt women? Like, trying to appeal to that thing in men that wants to protect women. And they just base it off of lies, because that one lady who died, she took the abortion pills, and the fetus did not pass. And then a hospital in Georgia said, no, we don't want to do a DNC because they misread the law. That's medical malpractice. That's not Trump policy. Not Trump policy at all.
Right.
But facts don't matter when they're talking about these points. The facts don't matter at all. It doesn't matter that the living being in you has a different DNA, is not a parasite, is not a clump of cells. I mean, I'm a clump of cells, all their arguments fall flat, but that doesn't matter, because they get right to the feelings on that issue. And the propaganda has just been really good at using it and guilting women. I went to a horse show just to watch a few weeks ago. And I went into the restroom in the stall, and this was at a conservative place that the whole facility is owned by Christians, right? I went into the restroom in the stall in front of, like I'm sitting there, and in front of me is this sticker somebody put up. And it was talking about, nobody needs to know who you pull the lever for. Do it for the women in your life who could have been abused, all these things, right? Insinuating that they would have been assaulted and therefore pregnant, and therefore, all these things that are like
all these corner cases.
Yeah. And it was basically guilting women into, hey, when you go in that booth, vote for Kamala. You don't have to tell anybody. And I was like, what the hell? So I tore it down and I went in the other stall and I tore that one down. I was like, nope. But I was like, that's what they do. And I thought to myself, men would never know that women are campaigning to other women like this. So the first thing I did was when I got home was start calling a couple of the men that I know and telling them, like, this is what they're doing. Yeah.
I mean, as a man, as a male, with I got the parts. I don't understand. Women say they want control of their bodies. They have that.
Like
before they get knocked up.
Yeah.
What totally. Is the problem?
Here's the problem. They don't want to be responsible. They don't want to be accountable. They will not face consequences, the consequences that come from actions you decide to take, like opening your legs. You can keep your legs closed. You know what I haven't done? Gotten pregnant. And it was pretty easy not to, because I just didn't do the thing that makes you get pregnant. Women don't want to have to deny themselves anything. They don't think it's fair. And I'm like, it's children. It's the mentality of a child.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, they say, well, birth control is so expensive. No, there's a birth control that's free. It's right in front of your face. But it seems like they want to be able to do that and not have any consequences for it.
And birth control is not expensive either. It's not.
No, it isn't. Under Obamacare, it's free. But yeah.
Back in the day, when I was on it, because it was supposed to help with, my other like hormonal issues or whatever, like polycystic ovarian syndrome, here, take the birth control pill. Here, do this. It's good for you, right? It'll manage your hormones. Oh, yay, right? I had health insurance. It's not expensive. I don't know what they're talking about. Expensive.
Yeah.
And second of all, condoms aren't expensive.
Right.
So what are they talking about? That's a lie. It's another lie.
Not engaging in the activity is free.
It's free. Yeah. We need to make a takeoff of those old MasterCard videos. Priceless.
No, I mean it's I think it's interesting because it seems like, and I think we've gone over this again, but I'm gonna say it again just for fun. Women, not all women, but a certain percentage of them seem to think they can do anything and get away with it scot-free. Where does this come from? What do you think?
I think we've had a problem for a long time when we had primarily let me get the right generation. We have a problem with simp dads who tell their daughters, you deserve the world. You can be anything. You can be anything.
Yep.
Don't let anybody ever tell you blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yep.
And that's what women hear. They also hear that from their mothers, who probably heard it from their fathers. So there's this this is what girls are being told from very young ages. Boys are not told that. Boys are not told you deserve this and you deserve that.
No, you got to suck it up and care for the women is what we're told.
Yeah, but women, it's almost like, and even their teachers, there's this attitude that it's like, oh, you deserve everything. And if you don't get everything, well, then it's not fair and it's wrong. You've somehow been wronged if you're a woman and you don't get everything you think you deserve, because you get to decide what you deserve, apparently. If you don't get that, then somehow somebody has wronged you. When that's just life. And men know that. Men are like, yeah, life is not fair. Life beats you down. Nobody's coming to save you. Men know that. Men are like, nobody's coming to save you. This is bad. This happens. This, I got, kicked in the rear end at my job and blah, blah, blah. And they know it. And they're not going around complaining about it and blaming people for it. But women do the exact opposite. And I think it's how we raise little girls. And I have noticed, and I started noticing this again from watching cop cam videos, because sometimes you'd see these young women, like around 20, and they're
Yeah.
flipping out, and they
Losing
won't
their
put their hands behind
minds.
their back,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then daddy shows up, calm down, sweetheart. It's okay. And then making excuses to the cops. Well, you know, she just lost her job, so blah blah blah. And I'm like, there's your problem right there. There it is. And if you think that when you have a dad like that, if any husband can ever be good enough, good luck. And I have a good example of this. I don't know if you want me to talk about it or not. But
Of course. Yeah. Whatever you want to. Yeah.
Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder, right?
Yep.
He did the right thing. He was a virgin. His, wife to be was a virgin, she said, Hillary, and they got married. And they were going to be traditional, family, husband, wife, children, etc. And it starts to play out that way. And she's just not having it. She's not wanting to be the traditional wife. And she starts to be not happy, right? So she files for divorce. She shows that bit of video where he's so abusive because he's like, would you act like a wife, right? Anyway, and I'm like, I'm sure they had a discussion about what their life was going to be. Anyway, besides the point. But then what happens? Divorce. She files for divorce, right? And then we find out that her father is helping to threaten Steven, like ruin his whole business if she doesn't get the monthly payments that she wants, and she doesn't get the amount of custody that she wants. And it was her father helping her. And I was like, aha, see, he thought he had it. He thought he had it. He had a virgin. She was gorgeous. She grew up in the church. It's all good. Great family relationships. I'm like, no, she had a simp dad that was like, you're my princess. No one should ever speak to you like that. No one should ever talk to you like that. You deserve da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, created a monster. And my whole, my mentality just shifted. And I was like, because you would think that was a safe bet. But you can't, because when they're raised like they're little princesses like that, there's no way that they're ever going to be able to be a wife forever, because they're, as soon as you disagree with them or you stand up to them, abuse. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I think.
Well, I appreciate your time there, sweetheart.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming by. This was really interesting. And I hope our friends in the chat, they're saying, oh, she's got crazy eyes. You have crazy eyes?
I have expressive eyes. Do I?
Kind of look crazy. Yeah,
I mean, you guys are gonna try to find something. I don't blame them. I mean, there's a lot of women out there who have been really bad to them. And like I said 4 years ago, when I started this channel, I was like, I'm never asking them to trust me, because I don't think you should trust a woman. Really don't. So there's no way I'd be like, no, you should trust me. I'm one of the good ones, because they all say that. I'm just like, hey, look at some of my videos, and if you don't think I'm real, check back in a few years, like Hamster has, and I'll be saying the same things, probably even more emphatically. So
yeah,
for whatever.
I mean, it's fantastic. So can we do it? We'll do it again at some point. Maybe not 4 years from now, but maybe sooner.
No. Yeah, sure.
So again, I'm voting for Donald Trump, and I think you are too.
I wore my red for a reason.
I mean, we can. Well, he's got his Madison Square Garden tonight. So I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
When did you become a Nazi? When did you become a woman-hating, evil person? When did that happen?
When did that happen? When did my internal misogyny make its way out?
Yes.
So probably around 2016, I would say. Yeah. That's when the awakening really began. So, yep. We're 8 years in now.
Yeah. Well, you're fully a Nazi, no question.
I'm right there, man. I'm right there.
And you're voting against your fellow WAMMEN.
Heck yes. Heck yes, I am. I would do it, well, I'd say I'd do it multiple times if I could, but that's okay. There'll be an illegal immigrant doing that somewhere.
Oh my God. Oh no. All right. Far from Eden. Thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you, Hamster. Great to see you too.
You take care. Love you, babe. God bless.
Bye. Bye.